Hey guys, Joe here from XFoxGames, and this is going to be a quick, really high-level install of the ShanYE pump kit for the Cheetah 2.0. I'm not going to go over every step of the way because a lot of it is self-explanatory. I just wanted to cover some of the things that I ran into where they didn't quite line up with the other video that was online, and how some of these parts are different, and some of the things that I ran into where I'm like, well, how do you do this? What's going on? So, first things first you want to get your tube ready. This is the first big step. Now, you're going to notice on this tube, in the other install video, they used a candle and heated up this kind of outer ring here, and it does screw on. It just uses some type of solvent weld. I don't know what they use in there. Now, I did 2 of these, and one of these I was able to do that with, but before you do it, make sure you remove your inner bumper, or else you're going to smell some burnt plastic, and then remove the outer O-ring here, and you just hold it over the heat and kind of spin it and just heat up this right here. And I had to get mine super, super hot. Make sure you have some really like heat-resistant gloves. And when you think you got it right, you hold it and just twist it, and this whole piece should just spin off and you'll be done. Now, that worked for one of mine. It did not work for the other one. The other one, no matter how hot I got it, it did not work. So I actually had to Dremel it off. So it kind of looks like that normally. And so what I had to do is just Dremel this edge right here, and I kept going around and around until eventually I saw a crack in between the edge of this and that snap ring, or that screw portion. And so I just pulled it off, and all that was left was the ring. I just cut a groove in it, and it popped right off. I think if I was gonna do this again, I'd probably just Dremel it off, because the heat, man, I had to get this thing scorching hot to get this to actually, you know, to get it to actually work. So just kind of keep that in mind, that you can do the heat, but you got to get it super, super hot to actually work. But a Dremel, again, worked just fine for me. The second thing is when you're trimming this, I'm going to throw up a picture here. When you're trimming it, you're going to notice when you're looking down at the, you're going to see like 4 kind of posts, 1, 2, 3, 4. I basically went to the back of each of the top and the bottom of the post, cut down with some flush cutters, and just cut away until that whole inner portion is gone. That was it. Nothing too tricky about that. You just do it on both sides and call it a day, right? Nothing too crazy. When cutting the plunger tube, it's basically, I just cut it right here, right at the back. So you cut something like this. So that's how much I cut off. So again, nothing too crazy. You don't want to go too far, but you do want to cut it enough, like kind of like right at the base. Leave a little nub on there, and you should be perfectly fine. I did it with a Dremel. My big cutters, I didn't have big enough cutters to cut it, so I just did mine with the Dremel, and it was perfectly fine. So you can see, all pretty easy. The next step is gonna be this black piece back here that fits in here. Oops. It's gonna go in here so you can attach your stock. Now, in their video, in the install video, they put it in there, and then of course you just mark it up with marks where the holes are. And I believe they use some type of heat, like they heat up a screw and then pushed it through. I just used a drill and just drilled out where each of the holes were. I figured that was like way easier than using a heat press or whatever it's called. So once you're done with that, now you can really just put this thing back together, because my whole front piece kind of came together minus the barrel. So the tricky part about this so far has been getting this whole front piece in with the tube, with the back block, with the block for the shoulder stock here. That was the hardest part out of all this, because this back catch needs to be seated, and there's a screw on top with the big priming screw here, which tends to pop up and go over where it's at, and it is frustrating. I get it. So the best way that I figured out how to do it is put in your black piece, put in your catch, and then push over your spring so it's not leaning over on the catch. Put in your tube, but don't seat it yet, because you got to put this front piece in, put the plunger inside the tube, and then just push it back until it seats itself down. Now it's gonna wanna pop back up, so just keep some pressure back here. This is the part you don't want to pop up, because you have to start the whole process again. So I'll put some pressure on it, make sure everything is seated, then put the top on and screw it down. I make it sound easy, guys, but it will be difficult to put that in line up, because very tight tolerances, and this back piece here wants to pop up, and it wants to, the screw wants to pop out, or the spring wants to pop out. So once that's done, I noticed that my barrel was like it was like my prime was really, really hard. I couldn't quite understand what was going on. And I noticed that in the front here, I took mine out, but you could see there are 4 screw holes, 1, 2, 3, 4, that hold in this inner kind of metal sleeve that helps the barrel slide, right? Now, those screws actually overlap into where the barrel is, so I almost could not even get the barrel in with those screws holding in that piece there. So I ended up just super gluing that slide into that plastic PLA piece right there. That's what I ended up doing, because you could see it was scratching the crap out of my barrel. Now, what I also noticed is the back portion, there's about an inch, because that sleeve is only about this long, and so that leaves about an inch-ish, somewhere in there, of just kind of this PLA. And it was way tight, so I was able to put my barrel in, but it would, right when it would get past the sleeve, it would hit, and like it would be very tough to kind of, you know, wrench all the way through. So what I ended up doing is getting this here, just kind of a file, and filing around the inside of that slide right here to kind of open it up. It's probably like a 1/10 off. It was definitely difficult. Then I put a little bit of lube in there to kind of help it out, and you could see now that perfect. It is much, much better. So everything else with the shroud and the, you know, and the top and the Picatinis, all that is super self-explanatory. I just think that putting this here together and getting it to stay was difficult. It takes a little finesse. You might run into some of the issues that I ran to up here about my screws being too tight and the inner bore of this being too tight, and I just had to, again, just file it out. Don't forget to lock your barrel into place here with these 4 screws. And then, of course, if you wanted to, there are 4 additional on the front of your front shroud to really lock it into place. But after I did all this and took out those screws up here, super glued that into place, filed the inside of the back here so the bore is bigger, this thing, it's smooth now. It's not super grindy like it was before. It was almost impossible to prime. And every time you pump it back, it would pull the barrel back out. But yeah, everything else, super self-explanatory to, you know, to kind of put these pieces back in and lock them into place. I don't really need to go over that because, again, it's you know, pretty much intuitive. But overall, once you get it going, yeah, it's super fun. I already shot it a few times, and it's a super blast. So I'm going to go out right now and go shoot this. But hopefully that helps some of you guys with some of the tips that, you know, were made to look easy on the other video that I watched. And it wasn't in English, so it was really hard to know what was going on. But hopefully some of you guys will be able to say, okay, yeah, you know, I see what XFox was talking about here. You're right. It's hard to put in. Or, man, I can't get that off, so what do? The heat's not working. Okay, we can Dremel it or whatever. But, yeah, that is it. Let me know what you guys think. Leave it down in the comments. Thanks again, Fox fans.